Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the JCC of the East Bay, and thank you all for coming out tonight. Now I have the honor of introducing our speakers for tonight. Ellie Marks is closest to me here. Is the Director of Governmental and Public Affairs with Environmental Health Trust. She is also the co-founder with her son, Zachary, of the California Brain Tumor Association. Ellie entered into the cell phone brain tumor world when her husband was diagnosed with brain cancer in 2008. His cancer has been attributed to his long-term cell phone use. She has testified to Congress, attends international expert conferences on this issue, and has appeared on the Dr. Oz Show, Larry King Live, and many national newscasts. Ellie is an outspoken advocate for educating, advocating, and legislating nationwide. Ellie is one of the lead authors of the Legislative Briefing book, which has been translated into 8 languages being used worldwide. Ellie believes that liberty cannot be preserved without knowledge. If you have knowledge, you have choices. Thus, she speaks out to educate the public and to help implement legislation so that others do not have to suffer as her family has.
I want to just say something about Ellie Marks. Ellie Marks is a quintessential Jewish mother. She does everything for everybody, takes care of the world, and she's also an example, if you want something done, ask a busy person to do it. She's been amazing, and we're going to start with showing you the demonstration that Ellie and Lloyd led at the downtown San Francisco.
Hey, hey, CTIA, what junk science it is fun today, too! Hey, CTIA,
what junk science have you said today?
Well, thank you. Lloyd and I actually had some fun planning that, and many of you were there to help us make the signs and all that. First of all, everything that Lloyd and Deborah have shared with you is on the Environmental Health Trust website, so I do hope that you will check that and please share it with your friends and family. Thank you for joining us here tonight. I'm honored to be speaking with Deborah and Lloyd. In May 2008, my seemingly healthy husband had a grand mal seizure in the middle of the night before we were leaving for our youngest child's college graduation. Hours later, we learned that he had a large mass in his right frontal lobe. Just 10 days later, while we awaited Alan's craniotomy, Ted Kennedy suffered a grand mal seizure. I immediately said malignant glioma, and unfortunately, I was correct. Ironically, our eldest son, Zach, had worked for Senator Kennedy, and a couple of months later, he came to me and he said, "Mom, I've been thinking about this a lot lately." Both Dad and Ted Kennedy were on their cell phones all of the time. And I was just stunned. I sat at the computer night and day, days on end. It was just shocking to me. And I couldn't believe what I found. I found many studies conducted in other countries that had used cell phones longer than we have here in the United States that showed a significantly increased risk, as Lloyd has told you. And glioma is the exact tumor that Alan and Ted had. Alan had used his cell phone for 20 years, holding it to his right ear, and his tumor was in his right frontal lobe. This is another new word that I used, ipsilateral use, and that's what the studies have proven. that with 10 years or more of use, used ipsilaterally, one has an increased risk of a tumor. I got angry. I contacted worldwide experts. They had me send them Alan's medical records and cell phone records. They all got back to me, and they all agreed that Alan's tumor is attributable to his long-term cell phone use. Deborah and Lloyd have been there for me and my family since the beginning of this journey. I'm proud to say they're my dear friends and mentors. Deborah's fascinating new book is dedicated in part to my family, and we're deeply touched by that. It's a must-read for anyone who cares about the health of their family, especially your children and grandchildren. Just 3 months after Alan's horrific surgery, I found myself sitting in front of Congress. On their first hearing on the cell phone health risks held in 15 years. Congressman Kucinich, who led the hearing that day, promised me that he will not let this die, and there is talk of some legislation at the federal level. Does the public know that the radiation-emitting device that even their children and grandchildren are holding to their heads was never pre-market safety tested? The man responsible for that, who worked for the FDA, went to work for Motorola just a couple of months later. The corruption started then, and it continues to this day. Since speaking out about this across the nation, I have been contacted by many others who also know that their brain cancer, or that of those that they loved and are now deceased, was also caused by their cell phone use. Many of their neurosurgeons have even told them that it was their cell phone when they asked why. This past week, as you saw in the little video that we showed you, many of those people came from across the nation to attend some of Deborah's events and to protest with us at the CTIA convention, their final convention held at Moscone Center in San Francisco. While 68,000 people attended the convention inside, we were outside protesting. A darling young couple, Stuart and Kristen Cobb. He's 35 and he started using a cell phone at the age of 19. We're here from Portland, Maine. They took 3 airplanes to get here. He has a glioma now at age 35. Mindy Brown, the widow of the Fresno State football coach, Dan, who died last year at the age of 50 from a glioma from his cell phone use, was with us also. A young widow, Kristen Prishman, came from Chicago. Her husband died last year at the age of 40. Their neurosurgeon also told them it was his cell phone use. They have 2 very young daughters. Distraught parents of a 29-year-old who died from this came from Fort Collins, Colorado. I could go on, but we'd be here all night. I cannot begin to tell you the heartache, and my list is growing daily. Most of the people, the victims, are in their 30s and 40s. My husband's tumor was slow growing and created emotional chaos in our family for years before the seizure. I had known him since we were 15, and his unexplainable personality changes were mystifying. He too knew that something was wrong, but just not how terribly wrong. Our daughter, who's now 24, when she was in high school, she would cry to me, "Mom, fix him." Little did we know what was really going on. Thank God now, after his surgery, I have him back, and he's actually with us here today. However, my once loving family had been torn apart by this, and if only someone had warned us. How can we continue to allow technological advances invented to enrich our lives take away our most precious resource of all, human life? People should be outraged, as this industry knows that cell phones are killing people, and they're doing whatever they can to hide this from you. I was recently involved in the San Francisco legislation. It's called the Right to Know legislation, which requires retailers to post at the point of sale the amount of radiation emitted from each cell phone. Each one is a little bit different. San Francisco was the first city in the nation to do so. The CTIA is now suing the city of San Francisco. This is nothing more than posting the amount of sodium in a can of soup that you buy. We are not saying they cause cancer. We are not saying they are unsafe. In a move heard around the world, the industry pulled all future conventions from San Francisco. This is seen as a form of extortion and a threat to other cities not to mess with them. I beg you, when you go home, try to find the user guides that came with your phones, like the ones that we were passing around tonight. If you can't, most of them are on our website also. They now tell us to adhere to FCC exposure limits. One must never keep the phone on while on your body. The new BlackBerry, the little book we passed around, which I just found about a week or two ago, actually says to keep the phone at least 0.98 inches from a teenager's lower abdomen and from the abdomen of a pregnant woman. And what about a 24-year-old? I don't get it. The language is just incredible. Why are the manufacturers hiding this language in the user guides, yet they're advertising people holding the cell phones to their head, and they're not telling you that this is not safe? Burlingame is interested in legislating, as San Francisco has. On September 20th, in a hearing there, where the CTIA sent one of their top guns to a town of 27,000, he stated, "I have not told you once, not once, that cell phones are safe. The FCC is telling you they are safe." There's obviously a problem going on between the manufacturers, the FCC, all the regulating bodies. But what he told you is not what the public is hearing. You are hearing that the industry is stating that they are safe. And as I said before, you're seeing the advertisements with people, even children, holding them to their head. We actually caught the CTIA in cahoots with the FCC the day of the Burlingame hearing. They changed the FCC website. I had sent the city attorney the day before the FCC website, which stated, as one of the precautions, which Deborah showed you before, to buy a lower SAR phone. The next day, and the CTIA VP admitted to seeing my correspondence, the next day the FCC website was shut down. There were people there from the San Francisco Department of Environment who have worked hard on this legislation, and EWG, and they knew that the website had been shut down, and it came back up with that line missing. Why is that? And who is regulating whom here? The public should be outraged, and the public should be scared. Had someone stood before you, and before my husband 23 years ago, and told him what we are telling you tonight, he never would have risked his life and jeopardized his family's welfare. After I was on Larry King Live recently, the blogs were incredible. People wrote in that had rectal cancer from keeping the phone in their back pocket. Others kept it in their bra and they had breast cancer. Another said that he had worked for the industry for 3 decades, and those within the industry knew that this was the truth. The good news is that many cities, including Berkeley, are considering legislation. Lloyd and I have met with Mayor Bates and a couple of your city councilmen a few times, and we're in the process of drafting the legislation. We at Environmental Health Trust hope to take this legislation nationwide, but we need your help with contributions to the Environmental Health Trust. I have done what I've done because I feel a moral obligation to share this horrible and heartbreaking experience with you so that others don't suffer as my family and those families that I've met from across the world actually do not suffer as we have. And I thank you so much for being here tonight. And I think you all, okay, we are going to show you a YouTube now, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about that. Thank you.
That's me, Serena Scott. When I ski or ride my bike, I always wear my helmet. Whenever I talk on my cell phone, I use speakerphone or a headset for the same reason, to protect my brain. Cell phones really are small microwave radios. Young adults' brains are still developing and are much more susceptible to radiation. I'm not going to stop using my cell phone, but I want to use it safely so that nothing gets in the way of my fun. Oh, I'll text them back.
I actually had the pleasure of meeting that young lady in Wyoming. She's terrific. What we are doing with that is showing it in theaters, hoping to show it in theaters across the nation. And we're actually having a contest at our website, too, for other teens to enter videos such as that to be shown across the nation in theaters. Again, we need financial support to be able to do that. We also passed these out to you tonight, and this is only through the month of October. If you sign up for our Campaign for Safer Cell Phones on Facebook or at Twitter, we will receive $1 for everyone that does so, and every little bit helps. And I thank you all for being here, and we will take questions and answers. Thank you.